Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session on business opportunities in Norway. We have a very interesting and full agenda today. As you know, the Norwegian market is offering very interesting opportunities for consulting engineering firms, but it also holds important challenges. It's a competitive market with many big players, and the requirements and the standards being used are quite high. So we hope to bring you through the opportunities and answer some of those challenges in today's session. My name is Ines Ferguson, and I'm the coordinator of the International Committee in Tecniberia. I have the pleasure to introduce a little bit the agenda today. So we will be having a word by Fernando Vizoso from KPMG in Spain, with who we have a very close relationship, and we hope to develop together with KPMG in Spain and Norway the opportunities that are being offered in the market. And also we have the honor of having Maria Sainz from the Spanish Trade Office in Oslo. So after those introductions, we will go straight into giving you a global vision of the market, the business culture, and how to what to do and not do in the Norwegian market. And we will end with a company presentation by Ingeniería on their experience in Norway. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Fernando Vizoso for his welcoming words. Fernando, good to see you today.
Yes, thank you very much, Ines. Very briefly, I'm Fernando Vizoso, Director for Infrastructure and Transport in KPMG Spain. I work very closely with my Norwegian colleagues that I will be introducing later to you. First of all, very grateful to Tecniberia and its international committee to have the opportunity for our firm to present our views and experience on helping foreign and also Spanish companies in the Norwegian infrastructure market. I'm going to let my colleagues to explain in detail, but as you know pretty well, Norwegian is very interesting with a market with a lot of potential for foreign companies for several reasons. The first or most important reason will be that there's a lot of opportunity, especially in the concession space. Also, there's a tactical advantage for foreign companies or Spanish companies is that the fact that the local companies are not very big and not very large and not very experienced especially in PPP approaches. So this is a good opportunity for experienced engineering firms or infrastructure groups that are entering this market. And we have seen in the last years several examples of that. But at the same time, we have to say that it's a very complex market in terms of entry, because the regulation, the way the Norwegians do their business are quite, the standards are quite high, and it's not an easy market for a company that has not any experience yet entering the market, and we'll discuss later in detail how this materializes in practical terms. So many thanks again, and I will let the representative of the Comercial Embassy of Spain to provide its view, and later my colleagues to provide their perspective on the Norwegian infrastructure market. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maria.
Yeah, let me give image and everything so you can see me. Hello to everybody. I'm very happy to be here today with all of you. I'm the head of the Spanish Commercial Office here in Norway. And as Fernando has just said, I think it's a market that maybe we forget a little bit in Spain. We don't look north so much. Maybe we look more towards South America or even Asia. and it has been difficult to bring Spanish companies here up. But for the last, I say, 2 decades almost, Norway has embarked in a very ambitious plan of transport infrastructure. So that has attracted more and more Spanish companies that I think, with all the difficulties that KPMG is going to speak about later, it has developed quite well. It's a market that has specificities, and competition is fierce. But I think Spanish companies are really doing well, and they have been awarded contracts for thousands of millions of euros. So Norway is interesting for many reasons. It belongs to the European Economic Area. That means that many of the standards, regulations are the same, mostly the same, and maybe they have a plus of even more exigent requirements for the contracts. But at the same time, it's a transparent market, and it has it presented really many opportunities to those who get involved in the country. I mean, the Norwegians, they appreciate that you have a small office here and you are loyal, let's say, to the country. But I don't want to continue with that, because I know that the KPMG is going to speak about it. And I would like to give you a quick summary how the Norwegian economy is doing. Let me share my presentation with you. Yes. Yeah. Here you have the Norwegian economy has been doing quite well, not with a huge growth in the last years, but it's sustainable growth around 2%, and has been lucky to have the sovereign fund, the global fund, the pensions fund, or the oil fund, as the other people call it, when the pandemic arrived, because that meant that the government could support individuals and SMEs and companies and all the productive sector with a lot of fiscal input and subsidies to keep that going, and they didn't need to go to the markets or to get more indebted, because they have savings, and they have a very fiscal and financial balance, a very balanced situation. So the GDP went only 2.5% down last year, and we are already growing, and we are at the level of the pre-pandemic. The economy of Norway is very dependent on the exports of oil and gas, also fisheries, but mainly oil and gas. And that means that you have to face a shift, a green shift into more sustainable sources of income. And this is happening little by little, but it's difficult to find replacement for this. And that has been, we just had general elections the 13th of September. Right now we don't have a government, because they are still in, they're in talks to see what kind of coalition can be made, or it will be a minority government, but it's going to be a red government, a left, or maybe red-green, we don't know yet, government, after many years of a conservative party in power, or with coalition of small parties. That's usually the situation in Norway. But that could mean different priorities, but we think not in the field of going green, because that's a compromise that all the parties have here, and even more in the left. So the government has taken advantage of the low interest rates to invest in carbon capture and batteries, hydrogen, and these new sectors. If you see, the unemployment is not, they think it's high, but I think it's not so high, because what happens in Norway is that there is quite a low participation in the labor market due to the very high social benefits. And also in the recent years, there has been waves of immigration that have difficulties integrating into the labor market. So we are now around 4%. But you have also to consider one of the minus in competitivity in Norway is the very, very high wages. And the last reports of the OECD, they put the labor unit in Norway has gone up since the beginning of this century, since the beginning of 2000, sorry, the year 2000. It has increased by 200%, which is really enormous, even in comparison with other Scandinavian countries. But otherwise, there are some, like in the rest of Europe, because of the prices of energy and other international factors, there is some core inflation that is coming up, and the government has started increasing little by little, by half a point, the interest rates, and we will see that until the end of the year. On the other hand, Norway has its own currency that is weak. You could say it's dangerous because it's a very small open economy. So when there are crises around, you don't get refuge into the Norwegian crown. So it has been volatile and a little weak, but on the other hand, it has helped exports. And it has really meant that the government could adjust the economy to these external factors coming from the globalized world. One of the things that Norway follows very, very closely is China's role in the Arctic. Because, as you know, China is very interested in developing the new polar Silk Road, seeing that it's going to be melting, it's going to be possible to come from the north instead of going all the way around south. And China considers itself a near Arctic country. So Norway, they are doing investments in Norway and in Iceland. I also cover Iceland from this office, if anybody is interested. And it's important to see what they are doing here. So Norway has a strategic position now, and that has to be influenced especially in energy and communications. They have developed some of they just, I think, opened a new cable that with the north of Scotland for exporting energy that is 750 kilometers. And their idea to develop more and more energy projects in order to export abroad that, no? when they won't be exporting oil anymore. But I would like to concentrate in, and I'm sorry, I apologize that I didn't know it was in Spanish, the webinar, so I made the presentation in Spanish, so I didn't know it was in English. In June, the government presented the national plan for 22. Let me see if I get here. 2033. These national transport plans, they have been being renewed almost every year, every 2 years, and revised. And in June, it was presented this. It doesn't mean that all these projects will go ahead, but it means which are the priorities of the government. Some of them, they are going to be tendered soon. Some of them, with the new government, there are more uncertainties. But this is a huge plan of 120,000 million euros in 80 different projects, mostly in railways and roads. The idea is to, as you see the map of Norway, it is a very complicated geographically country to manage, and is concentrated most of the activity around Oslo. So the idea with this plan is to have a more balanced regional development doing also especially towards the north and other cities. So to improve the connection in the roads is and by rail is very important, because now really is you get a little desperate when you drive around in Norway and you only do something like 50 kilometers per hour. So everything takes a long time, and that's going to be important also in order to fulfill the objectives of the environmental objectives that the government has. And I put here some of the main actors that they are involved in the development of these projects. As you can see here, most of the money will go to national roads and railways, but also to urban infrastructure like underground and some regional roads, as well as just, but it's not in such a big amount. Some money will go to airports and the coast, some ports. In railroads, I think one of the most important things that they are going to do, more interesting, is what they call the intercities, because from Oslo it will be developed different trains with east, west, and north with the cities around Oslo. That with the idea of take a lot of traffic from the roads, and at the same time to improve the mobility for the people living in these cities and in Oslo. So here you see in the, as you can see well, you see the main branches of these, the one going to the west, to the east, and then to the north up to Lillehammer. There is also a very important project that is the one that wants to improve the communications between Bergen and Oslo. This is what they call it the Riksbanen, that I can never pronounce, and it has a budget of 3,400 million just to start for roads and railways. And you have, in theory, the tender should come up now in the autumn, but we are waiting to see what happens.
Excuse me, Maria, 2 more minutes.
Sorry?
2 more minutes.
2 more minutes, then I'll rush.
Yeah.
Thank you. These are the roads that are going to do around some of the biggest cities: Kristiansund, Ålesund, and Vossebanen in Stanghelle. And this is an important connection. It will be. It has just been awarded to the consortium Sotralink, and we have a Spanish company there, RCC, also participating. And is the biggest PPP in Norway, and it's a project that will join the island of Sotra with Bergen, and it's really complicated with bridges, tunnels, and you can imagine with all this complicated orography. And there are more roads in other places, and then there are some projects for metro, like in Oslo there will be constructed 8.5 kilometers more of underground. And in Bergen also there will be a light train and tunnels for bicycles. And there are some smaller investments in the coast, but this is, I think, is a beautiful tunnel that they are going to do in Stadhevo. This part of the sea is very dangerous, and they are going to build fantastic tunnels for the cruises that is 37 meters high, and it will really improve the security for these ships to go around these fjords in the north. And then I just want to mention Avinor, that is investing in biofuel and drones and security for the airports. You have here some of the main local companies. And I'm not going to speak about the tenders because I think my colleagues on KPMG, they are going to do it. And these are more important authorities that they also tender projects in the local governments. And just the advertising part, we are here in the office for you. We are in Karl Johans Gate in the center of Oslo. And anything you need, please come by or send us an email. can make a tailor-made agenda for you, or even if you have practical problems with tenders or projects, then we are very happy to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maria, for that comprehensive presentation. We hope to go a little bit more into detail into the projects with the help of KPMG. And now I will leave the floor to our Secretary General, Araceli Garcia, who will be moderating the following part of the session. Araceli, the floor is yours.
We move on the next one. It's in Spanish, Visión Global del Mercado, Cultura de Negocio, Contratar en Noruega, Do's and Don'ts, Introducción a los principales proyectos y players de interés para las ingenierías. First of all, we thank you for your collaboration to KPMG Norway, and we start with Mr. Anderson, its partner and legal advisor. Amundsen, sorry, Mr. Amundsen.
Yeah, that's fine. Hello, everybody. Alejandro, could you please share your screen because you have the latest version? Brilliant. Is it now looking good for everyone?
Yeah, it's fine.
Thank you. So switch. Alejandro? Are we having difficulty with?
I just switched the page. Do you see it?
No.
No, we can't see, and it's also a very small, narrow presentation. It's not the full screen.
Okay, I'll try again. Sorry.
That's right.
So maybe I should take it from here then.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then you can switch. So with you today is me. I am Torbjørn Amundsen, partner in KPMG in Norway. Alejandro, he will come after me. He will talk about do's and don'ts and tips regarding tender work. And Ståle Hagen at the end will produce or give you some insights on transport and mobility in general, and some of the players and some tips in that respect. But we will start with the Norwegian business culture, which I'm asked to talk about. I've been working with KPMG in Norway for 22 years, and all this period I've been working only with foreign companies almost. 98% of all my clients are outside Norway. And we are going to share some insights from some analysis and some reports that KPMG has prepared regarding this topic. So switch. Brilliant. So the Norwegian business culture, Spanish companies have been working abroad, and many of you have been in South America, other parts of Europe. I have been in Madrid many times meeting Spanish companies. I'm very impressed by what you have done outside of your own country. Many of you have also been to the Nordic countries, maybe Sweden, maybe Denmark. And what's important to understand is that the Norwegian business culture, the Danish, Swedish, and Finnish culture is completely different. It's almost nothing in common. So if you see, for instance, Norway and Sweden, Norway is characterized by a flat structure, meaning low pyramids, that all the functions, it's the functions that's decide. It's not necessarily the top management that makes the decisions. And in Sweden, for instance, it's much more formalistic. Decisions are consensus-based. Everybody shall participate. Everybody shall discuss. Well, Denmark is more really focused on relationships, more like Spanish actually, and appears to be hard professionals and not afraid of a fight. So from a Norwegian perspective, we always perceive the Danish as very likable when we meet them first, but we think they are very demanding to work with because they always discuss and quarrel. They are not afraid to take a discussion if they think that they have something to gain by it. So if you think that you know Norway because you've been to Sweden, you must think again. Switch. What I'm going to talk about now is a little report that was prepared some years back by Professor Gert Hofstede in the Netherlands. He has studied and made a report of many countries and how they are structured, how they make decisions, how they are feeling about or how they go about in their business culture. And I'm going to share some of this with you. Now, we are comparing between Norway, Spain, and another trading partner that we all have to deal with, namely China. When we see the next slide, please also note that if there is a difference of more than 10, the difference is significant. So just let's start with one of the really big ones. You can see the insecurity avoidance. Insecurity avoidance means that if that is high, the business in that culture will typically spend much more time before you make a decision. They will discuss, they will analyze, they will be thorough, they will try to come with as many experts as possible. You can see that Spain is very high on this. It's lower, much lower in Norway, so we accept much more risk. We make decisions faster. And in China, it's even more so, that they are prepared to accept very much more risk than in Norway. In masculinity, which is another aspect, you can see that Norway has a score of 8 and Spain has a score of 42, China 55. This means that the more masculine you are, the less collective you are. This report I have found very, very insightful and very, very helpful in my work with foreign companies. I work with Chinese, I work with Spanish, Portuguese, German, Swedish, Danish, and I always go back to this and I prepare myself and think again, how does these cultural differences influence my strategy when I discuss with them? How will I approach my potential cooperation partners, suppliers, and customers? And I also recommend that you do the same. You will not have so much use for this when you are going for a public tender, but you will have a much more use for it when you are approaching Norwegian cooperation partners. So the basic question that you need to ask yourself is, what can I do to create what you call rapport? Meaning, how can I create a situation where we dance together? I could have spoken about this for 5 more hours. And I have done so in the past, also in seminars in Spain for Spanish companies. I was given 6 minutes. I think my 6 minutes has gone, but I think I invite you all to reflect on this and maybe come back if you would like to get some more details around these topics at a later stage. Now I'm switching over to Alejandro.
Thank you. My name is Alejandro Serrano Christiansen, and I'm head of public procurement in KPMG Norway. Thank you for having me. I'm going to talk about how to win public contracts in Norway in 5 minutes. So, I will try to be. It's going to be a quite brief introduction to this. In Norway, the total procurement value of goods and services for the public sector amounts to more than 520 billion Norwegian crowns per year. The Norwegian legislation for public procurement applies to purchase of goods and services within most industries and span from major construction projects to the purchase of the smallest specialized healthcare equipment. As in Spain, we also have comprehensive rules, but Norway, as a member of the EEA, is obliged to transpose the EU procurement's legal framework into Norwegian law, and to ensure a uniform application and interpretation of these rules. As in Spain and other EU countries, the main purpose of the legislation is to contribute to creating value for society based on the fair competition, good business practices, and equal treatment of suppliers. The general principles you will find of public procurement procedures follow the Public Procurement Act in Norway, and the act is accompanied by several sector-specific regulations that set out more detailed rules for each sector. I won't go into every one of them because of time, but it's very important that you know where to find the different regulations. Okay, contract notices. Where do I find relevant contracts? If you want to do business with the Norwegian public sector, the easiest way to find relevant contracts is to monitor online portals where contract notices are made public. A contract can be published in either the Norwegian online database for public procurement, that's called dofin.no, or through the European online database named Tender Electronic Daily. It is the legislation on public procurement that governs when and where a contract must be publicly published. The contract value. As a general principle, all contracts for supply, works, or service contracts with an estimated value of above 1.3 million Norwegian crowns must be made public in the Norwegian database, that's dofin.no. For all contracts with an estimated value above the EU threshold values, the publication also must be made in TED. The minimum threshold for all contracts regarding works, supplies, and services for the application of public procurement law is in Norway 100,000 Norwegian crowns. This means that if you're under 100,000 Norwegian crowns, you can go directly to a supplier. If you're above, you have to have a competition. If the contract is regulated in the procurement regulation, the general one, then the national threshold for government authorities procurement of supplies and services contracts is 1.3 million Norwegian crowns. Other authorities like a commune, for example, they have a higher threshold, that's 2 million Norwegian crowns. And for construction contracts, if it's under 51.5 million Norwegian crowns, then it's you have more easier rules. If you're above, then you have the European rules. And for the utilities regulations, the supply and service contracts, the threshold there is 4.1, a little higher than for the general procurements. And but for building and construction contracts, it's the same. So if you're above 51.5 million, you have to follow the European rules. So how to find to search for contracts? To find relevant contracts, you can do manual search or you can subscribe to email alerts for certain types of keywords or CPV codes. The CPV codes, that's the Common Public Vocabulary in Europe, is a classification system or standard for the developed by the EU Union to ensure a clear and correct labeling of the contracts published. I will advise that you actually buy the services by, for example, a company called Comercial, and you get the alerts automatically to your email. Okay, so some tips for successful tendering. First of all, I would like to point out a language. For most competitions, all the documents aside from the contract notice is actually in Norwegian. Moreover, in almost all procurements they request that the tender itself be written in Norwegian. Often even appendices or qualification documentations must also be submitted in Norwegian. And this represents a challenge for international suppliers. So look for specifications of language requirements in the competition documents and ensure access to a good translation service as soon as possible. Another tip is the written descriptions. Competition documents in Norway often comprise a lot of written information, and often the contracting authority also requests that the submission of written descriptions. So an example is common to request tenders to provide a proposal for solutions to be evaluated under the work criteria, for example, quality. When it comes to pre-qualification, many major tender competitions in Norway for services for works are conducted as restricted procedures or competitive procedures with negotiations. And for such procedures, the number of qualified tenders invited to submit tenders is normally between 3 and 6, depending on the procedure chosen. So understanding and replying correctly and pointedly to the criteria used to selecting the successful tenders is of utmost importance. Okay, I will jump to the last one. Request information always, because you are allowed to ask as many questions as you want, and unfortunately, many do not do so. So that's where I, because of time, have to move on to my colleague Ståle Hagen.
Hello, nice to meet you all. It's 1 minute left, but I will try to do the presentation very sharp and quickly. I will give you an overview of how the projects will be established in Norway, how it starts. This is a funnel, and we can see the National Transport Plan on the top. The National Transport Plan is what we have heard, 1,200 billion Norwegian crowns, like 120 billion euros. That's 10 billion euros each year. But that's just an intention from the politicians on what they want to build. In this yearly state budget, we have the financial decisions. And after that, we can see a yearly action plan that we can see in the public administration companies. There we plan the progress. So we have to follow all these documents to see what they want to build, what is actually financed, and what will be planned. And then, as Alejandra has told you about, you can see in EU Supply, Tendesign, Comercial, or Dauphin, the tender process. After that, you can follow the actual progress in the National Public Roads Administration, the Bane NOR for railways, Avinor for the airports, and the Coast Directorate. So energy infrastructure, for instance, is ahead of this. This is only the infrastructure within transport. And I'm working with infrastructure and transport in Norway as a director in KPMG. So you can give the next, Alejandro. This is just a short overview of the major engineering and advisory companies. You maybe know a lot of them already, but this is potential partners within advisory companies and engineering. And you can take the next one. This is some of the major construction companies. Implenia and INRC group that you can see in the bottom here is within railway. The others is in both all construction areas. So you maybe know some of them as well. And then you can take the last one. We will have this very fast now, but we will speak a little bit about special risks and some political risks, because this is important for you, I think. We have had an election in Norway for a new parliament, and we will get a new government within a couple of weeks. And we are switching from a conservative government to the Labour Party, which is social democratic, and the Centre Party, which is a farmers' party. They are known as very nationalists and protectionists as well, with support from the Social Left Party. Both Centre Party and the Social Left Party want to have a Norwegian Brexit. They want to cut all this collaboration, and they want to cut the economic area agreement. So they want to cut all the connections with EU. But the Labour Party has said that's not, they don't want to do that. So let's wait for what will be the real declaration. But anyway, this can lead to severe changes in the structure of infrastructure projects, because they have all said that they want smaller projects to make it easier for small Norwegian companies to bid in the tender processes. So they don't want these big projects that you can see today. They also will have less competition. They want to close down Nye Veier, that's a road construction company, and they also want to let the National Road Administration to do all the projects. They also want to emerge all the companies within railway into one state-owned company again, like it was 15 years ago. We think they also will decrease the budgets on building roads and railway. As we saw, the National Transport Plan is just an intention of what they want to build. So we have to see the state budgets. But so far, they want to give a prioritization of other things than infrastructure. But that's that we have to wait and look. Some more things. They want less use of external private companies, and especially from abroad. The Centre Party has the last 4 years said that they want to protect the Norwegian small companies. So let's see what happens. More focus on the workers' rights and social conditions as well, and no use of PPP. So they want to cut all PPP projects. So this can be major risks that has to be handled if you want to do business in Norway. It's not a very black, of course, because you will be a lot of projects, but there will be another way to handle them. So you need a good advisor to maneuver through the public administration and the political system, and understand what the political changes will cause of actions to do business in Norway. So I think
Excuse me, 1 more minute and
I'm finished. Thank you.
yeah. Okay, thank you very much, all of you. We move on to the next one. It's a business experience of a Spanish company. In this case is Acciona, and Mr. Rogel.
Yes.
Jose Antonio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. And I'm pleased to meet you and have the opportunity to talk with you about the Norwegian experience in engineering projects. My name is Jose Antonio Rogel. I'm project manager in Acciona Engineering. I have worked in many countries for the last 20 years, and presently I have been working in Norway. My company experience, Acciona Engineering in Norway, in the last years have been tunnels for railway in follow line for Bane NOR. Bane NOR is the Norwegian national railway company, and presently I have been working in most railway section. Most is a city that is located 60 kilometers south of Oslo. I'm going to present okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, José Antonio.
Yes, okay. So this is the section of the railway that Acciona Construction is constructing now, and we have been designers for most of the components of this railway section. So this is the most city. The existing railway is running along the coast and going into the city. This is the station, the current station. And after that, it continues to the south to connect again with the, this is the new railway, and to connect here with the existing one. This is an important improvement of the railway, because when running into the city, there's a waste of time. Also, the speed is very slow. There's only one track. With this solution, we are implementing a double track railway with 2 tunnels down the city. This is one tunnel, 2.5 kilometers here, another tunnel here, 2.5 kilometers also, and finally the open air section of the railway. There's also a new station here, railway station, and the velocity of the speed of the train is more than 120 kilometers per hour. In total, 5 kilometers of tunnels and 6 kilometers open air on ground level. The new railway station has 4 tracks and platforms, plus new buildings, and the tunnels procedure is drill and blast with shotcrete for sustaining as the excavation is progressing. It is very important for Spanish engineering companies to take into account the environment and conditions in Norway. That is very different to condition in Spain. It will affect to the way of addressing engineering problems and also the design solutions that many times are very different to the commonly used in Spain. Also, it is very important to take into account that all designs are ruled by Norwegian standards. So it is not a solution to follow good practice for engineering if there is a Norwegian standard that is ruling the design. This is very important to take into account. Also, the construction's problems. For example, in Norway, it's very common a geological formation named quick clays. When excavating on surface through layers of quick clays, these clay masses can become unstable and transform into a floating liquid, producing sudden landslides. These quick clays have caused many accidents along the years in Norway. So administrations are very sensitive to this problem, and they are very demanding about geological researches and design solutions to avoid risks to population and buildings. This is very important to take into account when going to work to Norway for engineering companies. Another problem common in Norway for construction and for design is the frost. This is an issue that should be present in design. This is not usual in Spain, but in Norway, you have to take it into account. About the market for engineering companies in Norway, I have to say that it is very restrictive because they have very good engineering companies. So the entrance in Norway for engineering Spanish companies is not easy. It is good to go by the hand of construction companies that have works there, or also to make partners to go with local engineering companies. About local partners that you can contact for geological problems, for design and researches. There's NGI is the national referent for geological and geotechnical surveys. And for design, you can contact companies as Olaf Olsen or Niras, that they are very experienced in works in Norway and in local conditions. So it is good to have them as partners. About bidding in Norway, in general, bidding follows the common international rules. So it is not a barrier for foreign companies, and there's no problem on this issue. So we can continue after this talking. Okay, I'm finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jose Antonio. We have one question. You can, if you want to ask the question yourself, just hands up, or just to start to speak. The first one is for you, Jose Antonio, and it will be interesting to hear your perspective on working with Norwegian client and cooperation partner, seeing that he has experience for many countries, and what's different from the cultural perspective?
Well, it is important to take into account that Norwegian administrations and engineers, they are very serious, and they are very demanding. So and they are very well prepared on engineering issues. So we cannot go there to Norway giving our own solutions and to try to convince them that this is the best for them to implement. And this is impossible to convince them. They have their own standards, their own way to design. So nothing to do about it. The best practice is to follow their standards and their way to design, and not to try to make inventions or something from other countries. They are not very. They don't like to receive lessons about how to design.
Okay. Thank you, Jose Antonio. I don't know if we have another question for the speakers. No? No one? No one want to ask another one? Yeah, we have one from Jorge Picon. He say, do you recommend to have a local office to make business? This is for KPMG or just Acciona?
Mm-hmm.
You recommend it?
Yes, because it is important to have a straight contact with engineers and administrations there. So yes, it is important to have a local office, and also to have a local partner for the design. As I said, if you go with your own ideas about design, you are lost in Norway. You need to have a local partner. And also administrations, they prefer to have a local companies designing, because they don't trust on they don't trust on foreign designers if there are no local designers in the team.
And what's your view, KPMG?
Well, in a report that we did a couple of years back, we found that 70% of the foreign companies that came to Norway for the first project did not return for the second. And the reason for that was that many of these companies, they came together with another company from their home country. Let's say Jose Antonio,
yes,
they bring with you some other Spanish subcontractors. But if Acciona then does not succeed in getting a new project, then they will just fall off, because they don't have a strategy to grow on their own. So it depends on your strategy. If you're going to be a supporting element for a big contractor from Spain, I would say that it's quite possible to work from Spain, but you need, as Jose Antonio says, you need to understand the Norwegian standards. You need to study it, or maybe even hire a Norwegian or two, or go in cooperation at least with some of the Norwegians to understand their perspective. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. But I worked with Acciona when you came to Norway. I was forbidden to work with you when KPMG became your auditors, so I had to stop. But I was advising you for 3 years, and I remember from the very beginning, you did not have anything in Norway. Now we have a Norwegian company, and now you're winning more work. But for the first project, you did not have anything here. Yes. But for the second and the third and the fourth, you need to come into the market. You need to show yourself. I fully agree to that.
That's right.
Okay,
Just to add what Stoli and Jose Antonio have said, I agree completely. And our experience here in the office is that when the Norwegian authorities see a Spanish company that has little office and has like a compromise with the country, you know, that you present, not just you do one project and you disappear. It's just that you are here and you keep on applying for the tenders and so on. And well, they look at you in a different way. Absolutely, you start becoming one of them, and I think you will have much bigger chance to success.
Yes, that's right. Yes, you have to become a Norwegian. If you are a Spanish designer, you have to become a Norwegian designer. This is very clear.
After all, most of the Norwegian companies are really Swedish. I mean, Skanska, NCC, Peab, they're all a result of Swedish companies coming into Norway, buying a Norwegian company and integrating it, but then becoming Norwegian, fully Norwegian in that respect. But, you know, Skanska is an international giant, but it's also big in Norway. It's only a few of the Norwegian companies, builders, that are actually 100% Norwegian. I have a perspective or a copy or a comment to your Maria, I think, regarding finding partners. Sometimes partner search is very difficult because you cannot just send an email. A strategy that we have seen that sometimes work is to approach the search for a partner in the same way as you search for somebody if you would like to buy a company. So you would go to somebody who is working on deals, you know, sale and purchase of companies, and give them a list. These are the things we think we are good at. These are the things we are looking for with a partner, and more or less do the same due diligence search process for them, because then when you come into the dialogue with a potential partner, you come prepared. You come very prepared and you have a good understanding of them and their business, and you have a good understanding of what you can contribute with to them. Okay, which sometimes breaks the ice and gives them a much more open attitude to continue talking to you. Many of these companies, they receive like 10 emails per day or 10 introductions per day, and they're very glossy, they're very fine, we're the best in the world, 200 pages. It's harder to get an audition there than to become a pop star by sending one CD to an international record company. That's my comment to that.
Okay. Now we have another question. No.
I know, Maria, your husband is Danish.
Yes.
Yes. So, in Denmark, what they say, when you are coming to a meeting, you shall come with your clothes on. Meaning you shall be very good, very well prepared. If you are not prepared, then you come without your trousers. It's not going to be a good meeting. You can ask your husband about it. They say, come with your clothes on.
Kom med ditt tøj på.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Man ska komma med sitt tøj på. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Torbjörn. One thing that they don't like the Norwegian nor the Danes for that matter is to waste time. I mean, sometimes I think in Spain, we give us more time to talk, to have a coffee, this and that. But the Norwegians, they work very concentrated from 9 to 4 and just from 9 to 4. And if you go there, as Torben said, be prepared. You have to know everything. It has to have a meaning for them. They don't want social calls at work.
And that's the difference between Fernando and me. Fernando, he thinks he can call me at 9 o'clock in the evening from his Madrid office, and he's not surprised when I answer the phone. But then I've been home for 5 hours.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Okay. We are on time. If we don't have more questions. Thank you very much, all the speakers.
Thank you.
For your time with Tecniberia.
Thank you. Thanks to you all. It has been very interesting to meet you all. And you know where we are if you need anything else.
Maria, can you share your presentation with us?
Yes, I sent it already. So
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
So everybody has all the details of this project that, like Ståle said, well, some of them they have already been tendered, but some of them we will see what happens with the new government. So it's just the priorities that they were presented at the Parliament in June. So having that in mind, so it's good to know how the things will is. We are all very interested in seeing what's going to happen with the new government.
Okay. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
And bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.